Thank you. All right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Thursday. We are here with you, the Impact Podcast, real people, real conversations, and real resources. I'm Aaliyah Johnson Roberts here with you with consulting with AJR. And we also have our lovely Dr. Obiama Martin with us. So welcome. It feels like it's been such a long time. It's only been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But it feel like it's been a long time. But so today I wanted to talk about it. So I've kind of been thinking about this and talking about this the past week or so. But the mission statement. So I want to talk about our mission statement and the why. So to me, I like to sum it up as the why. Like, what is your business's why? At some point, I'm also going to bring up the fact that in my mind, this is not only applicable to business, but it's applicable to our personal lives as well, because we need to have a personal mission statement also. We'll touch on that later though. But yeah, so it made me think. I was at a conference. I did go live the other day, but I was at an event this the past 2 days. I also spoke at Express Yourself XPY Creative Performance Arts, like Black History program, which was amazing. And we spoke a little bit about it in regards to knowing who we are, right? And it's so important because it really is the foundation of what we do and why we do it. And a lot of time, it made me think about times that we may have something come up in our businesses that may end up being a concern, or we may have something occur with in childcare. We may have issues or concerns come up with staff, maybe with families. And sometimes if we take a step back and think about or look at our mission statement to determine, are we on the right track? Are we doing what we said it is that we would do, as well as then how can we respond to this issue, concern, or question? A lot of times our mission statement answers that. And the reason I say it, like, so for us, Pratt Street Learning Center and Bustleton Learning Center, our mission statement is to provide high quality, developmentally appropriate care and education for young children while partnering with families and the community. That's our mission statement. So in order to help staff make decisions on a daily basis so that they can feel empowered, and that they don't have to come to me all the time to determine if they can make this decision or not, we came up with 3 like guiding questions, which is, does it speak to the high quality programming that we offer? Is it safe for the child? Is it healthy and safe? And will it help move the organization forward? If it's yes, then I can assume that it's okay for you to go ahead with that. If it's no for any of those questions, then that's a no, because it doesn't fall in line with, it's not aligned with what it is that we do. So ultimately, why are we doing it? So that's really the gist of my thoughts and with the mission statement. So I wanted to put that out there and kind of talk about that a little bit and figure out ways that we can often take a step back, think about what it is we're doing. Actually, I should take a step back. Do we have a mission statement? Do we need to revisit our mission statement? Because sometimes we do it because we're told to do it when we're starting our businesses. However, is it still applicable? Has it changed? Do we need to revisit it? Do we need to make sure that it speaks to who we may have evolved into? So I want to throw that out there. What's your thoughts on that, the mission statement and your why?
So first and foremost, I'm loving this because it's so rooted in the why. Like, why do you get up? Right? Because that's the number one. Because when you don't have an internal mission, you're going to be late for work. Like, let's start right there. When you do not have an internal mission as to the why you go to work, why you impact the lives of children, why you do anything, then it's going to turn into disciplinary issues. And then also if your why is not solid as the owner and you are just in it for money, then it's not going to last, right? It's not going to last. So the mission statement is really important. And what you shared is just so loaded. Like my mind is going literally in like 100 directions with this because uh, I have the opportunity to work with some young people specifically. And one person, we had this conversation. She wants to start her own business. It's not childcare. She wants to get into jewelry. And I asked her, I ran her through some questions and she's like, I'm really passionate about it. She's 16. She's like, I'm really passionate about it. And she showed me all of this research she's been doing on the jewelry. And I said, so it's $125 for you to start, your LLC. Where you going to get the money from? And she's like, oh, I can get the money. I'm going to get the money. And I said, okay, so what are you going to do over the summer? Like, what kind of work are you going to do over the summer? Because you got to buy inventory. Like, you got to do some things so that you can get to the place of profitability. And she said, well, I've already made up my mind. I'm going to work at Home Goods or Starbucks because they pay really good. And I already have a hookup at Home Goods. And I said, do Home Goods sell jewelry? She said, I don't think so. I said, so then why would you work there? Because it's not in alignment with what you said you want to do. And at 16, and this is really applicable to everybody, because when there is no alignment in what you say that you want to do, you're not going to be committed to it for a long period of time. Like you're not going to be in it for the forever, for the highs and lows that comes with anything. So if your why is connected to a hustle mentality, let me make this quick, couple of dollars, you're really disservicing all of the people that you're going to come in contact with. So as I begin to continually talk to this young lady, she was able to see how working at Starbucks and working at Target is a distraction because it's not going to position you to learn more about the jewelry business or in how to leverage those relationships in terms of what vendors to go to, how to package, how to display, how to do all of these different things, because it's not one and done. You think you're going to work at Starbucks and Home Goods and sell jewelry. No, you need to strategically be working at a store that sells jewelry. And so, to the point of mission, and I know I went...
It's all aligned. That was literally the reason. I brought it up, because at some point we run into issues or something happens to where as though now we're like, okay, what should I do? And something that was brought up was, so we have a mission and core values. Our core values is our everyday display of our mission. So this is how we get to our mission. So the point that was brought up was, okay, so we have our core values, which is something else I'm going to go back and do better, because again, this is the purpose of constantly investing in yourself and learning, is even though you have a mission statement and you have core values, just because I told you what they were doesn't mean that you understand what it looks like and how you actually display that every single day. So we can post up our mission statement every day and it's on our door, but if our families and our children don't experience it, it really is just words on the paper. It's supposed to be your constant guide. This is what we do. Like let's take a step back. Are we going to do that next activity? Are we going to add that into our services? If it's not aligned with our mission statement, we're not going to do it, because like you said, it's a distraction. And at some point it's going to come out and it's going to show in our business, and it will have a lack of quality. We'll have issues and violations and high turnover, because we're saying we're going to do one thing, but what you see every day is another. So it is absolutely aligned. And one thing I wanted to go back and do in the businesses is do an even better job at showing staff or even having conversations with them about, okay, how do we better display our core values? So one of ours is get the job done, passionately committed, teamwork. Okay, so when it comes to time where it seems like we need to do a little better at teamwork, I want to make sure that we constantly remember that is a core value. How are we rewarding our staff when they show teamwork? What does it look like to have teamwork? Because for some people, it's like, no, but I asked my partner, did they need help? I asked them. For someone else, that's not enough. You saw that I needed help and you didn't help me. So what does it look like? So we need to be able to, kind of work through it. And I don't want to just tell people or tell staff or even tell families, here's the paper. This is what we do. This is who we are. I want them to see it and experience it every single day, to where as though now my families know what our mission statement is and our core values, because we constantly talk about it, we constantly show it, and they know, because at orientation, this is who we are. Okay, you're aligned with that. That's the service that you want, and now we're showing you constantly, and we're living and breathing it. Otherwise, it's not effective and it's not serving us.
So what I love about what you're saying, because for me, it's so interconnected with your hiring procedures, how you interview, and it goes back to what you said in terms of having your own personal mission statement. So then when someone, and this is something that we don't do, but we should do as a part of the interview process, to say, what is your mission, right? Not necessarily what's your mission statement, because most people that's coming for an interview are going to be like,
they'll tell you what you want to hear.
They're going to tell you what you want to hear, right? But if you say, what is your mission? What are your goals? What are your dreams? Now, what I often do, Leah, is I always ask individuals, when I am interviewing them, where do you see yourself 10 years from now? Because that gives me a clear picture of your mission. And it helps me to understand how long you're going to be employed.
Absolutely.
Right. And so that's really important. And also the other way that the mission is really important is, have you read our mission statement?
Mm-hmm.
What drew you?
Yes.
Right. To what about our mission statement drew you to our organization? Why would you want to work for? Again, those are things that we don't do, but I think that if we included our own personal why and the business why into our employment experiences, that we could probably avoid a lot of unnecessary conflicts. And to your point with, okay, the value system and the safety and the families and all those kind of things. So even when you are resolving, employee conflicts, yes, being able to go to the table with the said employee and said, how does your actions reflect either our mission or your mission?
There we go. That's the purpose. Absolutely. And you said something really important, which so we've been doing this now for the past year. We've had this process, but because it was new, we're constantly, going back to it and refining it. So we have added it to our interview process, to where, so we actually ask, tell me 3 characteristics that someone would say. If I were to ask a friend of yours or one of your previous coworkers, what are 3 characteristics that they would say about you, to kind of find out what kind of person you are? Because those questions that we used to ask, where, you could really just give me a cute answer, that's great. However, if I'm asking you about who you are and where you're going, tell me what's most important to you in a work environment, or even at home, what books have you read? Things like that tell you a little more about a person, and helps us to be able to connect and see if our values are aligned. And honestly, I don't want to overshadow your values with my values. I really want them to align, because at some point, for the sake of the job, you'll say, oh yes, yep, I believe in those. Those are my values as well. But if they're not, in a few months, we'll end up seeing who you really are. And now that's a waste of both of our times. When we really just could have seen if the relationship was a good fit in the beginning, which is also why I mentioned about the personal mission statement. You know, I have young ladies, but I also have young 20-year-olds, and we had something this past weekend where we invited a close friend to have conversations with them, because sometimes we know that they don't want to talk to their parents, but this is a trusted individual, and it really was a moment for them to take a step back also to determine who they were. This is really how this thought came to mind, because I wanted them to be able to take a step back, and because they're getting older and they're having new life experiences, new things are coming up, and you can easily get off track depending on who you've connected with. So, you know, you if you're not well grounded in who you are and know who you are, you can change every time you get into a specific group of people, around a particular person. If you're in relationship with someone who their values aren't aligned with yours, now you're changing. You're constantly changing, and that doesn't serve you. And at some point, you're having some internal battle going on. When if we're constantly going back and saying, "Wait a minute, this really isn't aligned with who I am. That relationship isn't good for me, or this place of employment isn't good for me," right? I believe in environment. When it's a good environment and it's conducive to you, then you fare well in that environment, and you can impact it positively, and the work environment can positively impact you. But when it's not aligned, then we get that conflict, and we need to take a step back again and look at our mission statement, ask you about yours. And again, and that's why sometimes it is good for us to part ways and realize that maybe this season is over, right? But if we have not defined what that why is, then we're going to keep trying to fix something that it's just not aligned. It's not going to work.
Well, another way of putting it is being in love with a relationship that has expired.
Oh, that's it. That's it.
Because what happens is, and I tell employers all the time, don't fall in the trap of holding on to people past their expiration date.
Absolutely.
Because once they show you who they are, and it's not just, it's really in every aspect of the business, right? And as you said, has that season expired? Because even in partnerships, collaborations, it really is applicable to everything, because organizations evolve, leadership changes, like all of these different things. And so while in the beginning, and what's so true, and I'm loving this conversation, because this is the reason why I parted ways with the organization that I was with for 8 years, because I felt like when I first started working with them and with their young people, I felt like our visions, our missions were so aligned, and the leadership, it was so aligned. And then 5 years later, the leadership started changing, and the new leadership that came in was not adhering to what I signed on for.
Gotcha.
And so you could see it trickle down to how the energy in the whole organization began to shift, and more of the better people started leaving, but the culture and the climate of the student body began to change, so much so it was my happy place, and it became a very unsafe place for me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this don't feel good. I'm out of here. Right? I'm out of here. And it's just, again, going back to knowing who you are, right? And adding to that, having healthy boundaries, because that's really important. Because sometimes also we can, because we're so in love with what was, that we can't see the shift and we can't see the change to our own detriment. And because we can't see it, what used to be reciprocal, what used to be an asset becomes a liability. And you have seen this just in the work and the relationships and the older individuals, right? Yep. Who refuses to conform to the new policy and changes that has happened within the changes at the state level, at the federal level, at the local level, and being so married to what used to be that they're now going out of business. Yes. Because they refuse to conform or to just say, this is no longer in alignment with what I signed up for. This no longer serves me. Let me bow out gracefully.
Yep, I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. We actually, Minette. Hi, Minette.
Hey, Minette.
She said, I agree that a mission statement reflects your business's specialties. This includes your product, services, pricing, quality, position, and technology. Absolutely. And it's all aligned. And so interestingly, I had a conversation with someone in regards to a new business, and they were getting overwhelmed with the request. They were like, I'm not sure what to do. So I literally asked, so what's your mission statement and what are the services that you offer? Because when it gets to the point when you're trying to just please everyone or take on something that is not aligned with your mission statement or what you provide, you're going to be overwhelmed because it doesn't fit into what it is that you offer. Sometimes we have to be able to say, you know what? That's not a service we offer at this time, or that's not a service that we offer. I do know of a place or a person you might be able to call. Now, well, if it's a referral, then say that, right? So I refer you here. I don't refer so much, but I may know of someone who offers that service. Let me give you that information. But if ever you're in need of a high quality education program that supports families and partners with the community, here's our card. Contact us then. It's okay to say that because you're the one that will be not serving yourself well by taking on. And sometimes, like you mentioned before, if we're hustling and just going after the dollars, you'll end up getting burnt out, which it's hard enough in this field as it is, but we can't take on things that just does not fit within our mission, or even we don't have the capacity to do. And I think that's also another part of it, is that do you have the capacity? That's a different conversation. But so I was saying that in regards to Minette's comment too, with our product, services, all of those things need to align. And that's why, like you mentioned, the industry does change. And there have been a number of things, like the pandemic totally opened up the idea of technology. We weren't using technology the way that we are today. But what we also did, which allowed us to be more flexible, and honestly, it made our business even better, is we began automating even more of our systems.
Yes. Yes.
Because it was like, oh, wait a minute, that product is out there because we were doing things the old way. It was like, oh, no. Yep, bring the cash in.
Right.
And, we were accepting cash only. It was like, no, we're not accepting it any other way because that's what we've always done. However, now I've invested in this automated system. They automatically get their statements. They can automatically make their payment. Oh, you need your total amount at the end of the year, EIN, here's the state. But you have to be open. I'm still providing a high quality program, but I'm also now having a more efficient business because I'm flexible in regards to the changes that have taken place, but I did not change who I am.
Right. Oh, that's so good. That right there, that part, that is so good. How do you stay authentic?
There we go.
Right? How do you stay authentic in an ever-changing world as it relates to your mission, right? And then going back to what you said in terms of you need to pivot. Do you need to revisit? Do you need to, change and all that kind of stuff? And it also makes me think about how, like in the beginning, and I'm not even talking about, well, I'll say it from this perspective, which has to do with knowing who you want to serve. So when I started out almost 20 years ago, I served everybody. And what's important is if you don't know, be honest with yourself after a while when you realize it ain't working. Right. So in the beginning, I serviced everyone, meaning children 0 to age 12. I did transportation of 5 elementary schools. And after a year, I was clear that I was an infant and toddler program. I was so clear. Like I was so clear because what I did not like was the combativeness and the constant conflict with older children and the parents.
Gotcha.
And so I was like, yeah, no, I don't have the patience to go back and forth with a parent over a child who is trying to make sense of their world, and they are exaggerating their version of the truth, and they're taking pieces of what they saw on TV, what happened at your home, what happened at the center, and putting it all together and presenting you with a narrative that is nowhere near the truth. And now you want to tell me what your child said. But when I tell you what your child said, oh, your child is a liar. Oh.
It's a totally different element. That's another element that we do.
I'm just saying, right? So because of that, I had to make I had to make a heart decision, right? And I had to make a business decision. And I said, you know what was my mission, right? So my mission, this was my mission. I'll never forget it. My mission and my vision was to train up children in a way that they would go so that they would succeed beyond standards. I wanted to prepare children for kindergarten and beyond.
Okay.
That was why I did what I did. And so what the pivot for me was, since I decided that children 3 and over was not my area of was not the area that I wanted to focus on. I'll say that, right? And becoming a infant and toddler program, not only did I prepare them and serve them really well, but when they turned 2.5, I had a whole resource hub of places where the parents could then take their children for preschool, because I was so committed in them not staying with me past the age 3. Okay.
But you still wanted to make sure they were kindergarten ready.
Yes.
So provided those resources that will help them get there, just not at your place of business.
Right. Not at my place. Yes. But the commitment was still there. So much so, though, I went and I did the research for the parent, because I'm like, I'm not going to refer you to somewhere I wouldn't put my own child. So let me vet them for you, which was a really great service, because people don't do that. Yes. But I wanted the transition to be smooth, so it was still in alignment with my mission. And that was to prepare them for kindergarten and beyond. And I did that.
There we go. That reminds me, that reminds me of the change we made at Bustleton. Again, part of our mission is to service families. It's always been since my mom, that's how it started, in the basement of our home, serving families. So in Bustleton, it's a 25,000 square foot building that has 11 classrooms. So of course, the initial idea was we're servicing all of them, infants through school age children. However, within the first year or two, was it 2 years, we would have one infant, maybe five, back down to two. We also experience those moments where we know ratio, it doesn't change even at nap time. So once we get to, our ratio in Pennsylvania is one teacher to four infants. Depending on the infants or even not, having four infants to one teacher could also be difficult at times. Even though we're in ratio, that could be difficult for a teacher. But once we hit that fifth infant, we now need two teachers at all times. But it wasn't sustainable. The demand wasn't there. We had a waiting list for toddlers, and we saw this pattern for a long time. It just didn't make sense for us anymore. So we expanded. We had the toddler class, and we had a high demand for preschool. So we had to make that change. However, we kept the other site open to infants. So we still were able to, because I felt bad. I'm like, we serve families. So if a family has a child or two at our program and they end up having another child, we want to make sure they have somewhere, within our community to send them to. So we did keep the other site with infants, but we did stop accepting infants at Bustleton, and we did have to make that decision really based on the business. We it wasn't something that we took lightly, but we still were able to do the work that we said we would do. But it was a business decision. And I think in ECE, that is something we're starting to talk a lot more about, is being able to balance, even if you want to call it balance, but we have this passion and we love children and we love families, but we do have to remember that this is a business. We have to be able to make sound business decisions. The numbers do not lie. So we also have to know our numbers, right? Because at some point I have a spreadsheet that you put in your employees' information, their pay rate, their benefits, all of that, and then you put in your rates and the number of children at that classroom served. And I would suggest every child care owner or director to do is to know how much it costs to run that classroom, because it just did not make sense. And my lead teacher had a master's degree. So we had this high level of expenses in this classroom that may have one child, two children. Even if it had five, it did not make sense. So that was something else. We have, Bob had a comment as well. Hi, Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Mission culture offers a vision of purpose, achievement of goals, and your beliefs regarding client service, quality control, and employee relationships. Exactly. And you touched on that earlier as well with employee relationships. We didn't even speak about quality control. We did a little bit, but all of these different levels, we have to take a step back and align it with our mission and our vision to make sure that it makes sense. And thank you, Bob, for bringing those other points up, because sometimes we just don't think about the full scope of our business. I was speaking to someone yesterday, and they asked me the mission for the consulting agency, which it took me some time. I see Tashi asked a question as well about creating your mission statement and how to create it so that it's not so lengthy, and how do you make sure that it's an attention grabber as well. But and we can talk about that too.
I was going to say, let me just answer that real quick for him, right? So what we know to be true about the mission statement is one or two sentences. It has to be concise, right? But it also needs to include your values. We've been talking about that this whole conversation, right? And then your why, your inspiration, right? So your value system, and your value system is rooted in your non-negotiables, right? And then it's your why, your inspiration. Like I shared, my why was I wanted to prepare children for kindergarten and beyond. And then it has to be plausible. It has to be realistic. It has to be doable, right? That's important. And then it needs to be very specific. So again, I went from trying to serve everybody when I should have been focused on a somebody, but starting out, I didn't know who that somebody was. So because I opened up to the everybody, I realized I was called to somebody, and that was Infinite Dollars.
There we go. Absolutely. So I did pull up a couple of examples too, and Tashida, I hope this helps you. But I love looking at these larger corporations' mission statements, because we think about the products or services that they provide. And when I read the mission statement, I'm like, they're genius. So IKEA's is to create a better everyday life for the many people. That
Concise.
It's concise, to the point. Are they explaining that they sell furniture and all those other services? No, you could go to the website or wherever they have that information and find out what it is that they do. But this is the statement. Facebook's, I love theirs as well, to give people the power to build community and bring the world closer together. They do that. They do a lot of other things. So their services, products, or whatever that corporation may have, it stems from it, but it's still associated, and it is birthed from the mission.
Mm-hmm.
So, your mission statement doesn't have to tell everyone exactly what you do. And I know he mentioned attention grabbing. I can't even say that every mission statement is necessarily attention grabbing. I wouldn't want someone to focus on that versus focusing on the authenticity of it and what it is that you literally can experience, because it can grab your attention every day. But once it grabbed my attention and I purchase your product or your service and I don't experience it, I really don't care about the fact that it grabbed my attention. I'm not returning. So really, it's about what is the experience that you are going to give your customer time and time again. Okay. I'd say that. I mean, you know.
That part right there says fraud. You're a fraud.
And we don't want that. We authenticity. Because at some point, the truth comes out, right? My husband would always say, what doesn't come out in the wash comes out in the rinse.
Come on.
And that's what happens. Every time.
Every time.
Every time. So let's be authentic to ourselves, right? And take your time in creating your mission statement. Make sure that it is living and breathing every day in what you do. You know, it needs to be real and not just cute or packaged well, but authentic.
And you know, and we're gonna bring it to a close with this one. You know, I shared some stuff with you while you was away via Instagram, and that is it right there, what you just said. Because when you're just hustling to get the bag, there's no real impact, and you will always be on this wheel to get the bag. And that's where that's at.
That's a mic drop. That's a mic drop there. Yes, I love it. I love it. This was so good, and we've had our mission statement for 13. No, I'm not going to say it was our very original. It stayed true to what Mom did 40 years ago. We refined it a little bit, but we still go back to it. So I just wanted to bring that. We have our annual document that it has our mission statement on there, but it has our core values. It has our quarterly goals. It has our 1-year goal, our 3-year goal, and our 10-year goal. But they're all aligned to our mission statement. And I want to be able to address those things via social media and be able to offer you guys some of that, some of those resources over the next 30 days. And so that it doesn't stop here. It's a consistent work, and I want us to do it together. So thank you so much for tuning in to the impact. You know, our goal, even for this podcast, is to constantly, that's why it's called Real People, Real Conversations, Real Resources. These are things that are literally happening. So we want to make sure that we're impacting your everyday life. And, we hope you tune in again every first and third Thursday, 2 p.m. We're streaming live. And thank you for everyone who interacted with us. And as always, thank you so much, Dr. Obiama Martin. It's been a pleasure, as always.
Yes, yes. See you guys next
See you
time.
guys.